Hello, fellow Rebel Capitalists. Hope you're well. So, one thing that we've been talking about a lot on this channel, I would even call it a prediction, going all the way back to when I started this channel in 2021, is that the global elite, the Malthusian Marxist cult, will take advantage of any crisis opportunity to further their objectives. And one of their top objectives, other than just depopulating and less energy, the way they're going to achieve those goals, I think, is through censorship. And this has been one of their main priorities over the past couple years. In fact, ever since the cerveza sickness, it's this whole push for disinformation, misinformation. You guys know that they don't care about protecting you. They care about protecting themselves. And it just goes back to the exact same strategy that we saw in communist Russia. It's the same strategy we saw in Germany in the 1930s with Goebbels, or however you pronounce his name. This is look, there's nothing new under the sun, for heaven's sakes. The global elite, the Malthusian Marxist cult, the World Economic Forum, the IMF, the EU, the UN, etc., the Davos types, they're not reinventing the wheel. They're just going back throughout history and saying, hey, what worked well? Oh, censorship worked really, really well. So let's go ahead and do that. Well, how do we do that? Well, we've got to shut down social media. We've got to shut down websites like Twitter. We've got to control them. So we, the global elite, can control the narrative. So this is something that I have been expecting. And it's not just with the cerveza sickness. It's not just with Russia. It's not just with what we see now. It's going to be with every single crisis we face. Now, a lot of you might put on the tinfoil hat, and I don't blame you for this, saying, George, you're not seeing the forest for the trees, my friend. You're talking about them taking advantage of a crisis situation. They are creating the crisis situations. And I don't know if I'd go so far as to say that, but I would agree that common sense would tell you that at the very least, they're sitting there with the cattle prod, right? They're just adding fuel to the fire. But let's get to this story from Zero Hedge, and you guys will see exactly what I am referring to. Let me do a screen share here. Okay, there we go. So here you go. EU threatens to block Twitter, or X. Musk demands concrete examples of alleged disinformation. So think about this, guys. Throughout Europe, the entire EU is threatening to block Twitter. And why would they do this? You say, oh, George, well, they can't allow people to see fake pictures. Really? Really? Like that's the EU's job, for heaven's sakes? And how this bureaucrat or these bureaucrats, how do they know those pictures are fake? I mean, well, it's been reported on CNN. Okay, we're going to trust CNN? We're going to trust the mainstream media? No, they're in the back pocket of the Malthusian cult. They're just the useful idiots. So you see how this comes full circle. It's very incestuous. The bureaucrats sit there and say, oh, well, this is obviously fake news because look at the mainstream media. They're reporting it differently. This is obviously disinformation, obviously misinformation. And then the mainstream media is just basically a wing of the bureaucrats themselves. You see, so this is just, they're trying to pretend there's an arm's length distance. And maybe there is, but as far as from a standpoint of influence, there isn't. But let's keep going through this article here. The European Union appears to be making its move against X, threatening to block the platform and hit it with massive fines over alleged disinformation. You see, again, what they're doing, look, this guy in the picture right here with Elon Musk, I can promise you he does not care about disinformation as it comes out of Israel or what's going on with this Middle Eastern conflict with Hamas. Hamas, I think I should pronounce it better there. He doesn't care about this. What he cares about is controlling the narrative moving forward. Because he believes there's too many people on Earth. He believes there's too much energy use. He believes in the Thanos plan. Remember? The old snap of the fingers. He thinks that would solve all problems. So then how does he achieve these objectives? He believes in central planning. He's basically a communist. And I would take it so far, say a lot of those individuals in the Malthusian Marxist cult are also eugenicists. So they don't want to kill just 4 billion people. They want to kill 4 billion specific people. But I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole. So again, my point is this guy doesn't care about a fake photo or a fake video that's coming out in Israel or the Middle East right now. He cares about taking control of the narrative forever. It's exactly what they did in communist Russia. It's exactly what they did in Germany. And these people are looking at what has worked well in the past, and they're trying to implement it at a global level. This is proof right here. They did it with the cerveza sickness. They did it with Russia, and now they're doing it with Israel. And trust me, this isn't going to end. I mean, good for Elon Musk standing up to these clowns, but it doesn't end here. This is a war, and even if they lose a battle, they're going to continue to push why they should censor the average Joe and Jane. So this person's name is Thierry Breton. I mean, what are the chances this guy's had a legitimate job in his entire life? I mean, what good or service? How has this guy? I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but my guess is this guy's just a lifelong bureaucrat. He probably went to some high-level school, got his PhD in something ridiculous, has never worked an honest day in his life, and now he's basically sitting there, on his throne, trying to dictate what happens to the masses because they're just too stupid to make their own decisions, and they're just ruining the planet. And therefore, I need to have all the control. I need to have all the power. We, the global elite. I mean, people like this really just despise humanity. They despise the average person. Following the terrorist attacks, Hamas, I keep mispronouncing it, I apologize, against Israel, we have indications that Twitter being used to disseminate illegal content. What is illegal content, by the way? Just because it's inaccurate according to the mainstream media, that makes it illegal? I mean, if that were true, let's go back to 2020. And how much of that content that was actually turned out to be the truth, how much of that, when it came out, would have been considered illegal because it contradicted what we saw in the mainstream media, or at least the mainstream media's narrative, right? Pretty much everything that turned out to be true about 2020 and 2021 at the time when it came out would have been illegal based on this clown's definition. So he sends an urgent letter to Elon Musk, from the EU. He wrote, public media and civil society organizations widely report instances of fake and manipulated images and facts circulating on your platform. And wait till you hear Elon's response. I mean, there's things that I really like about Elon. There's things I don't like. I mean, I'm kind of on the fence, rather agnostic, but I do applaud him pushing back against these global elite. That's for sure. So anyway, this clown goes on to say, such as repurpose old images unrelated to armed conflicts, military footage, the actual originated from video games, appear to be manifestly false or misleading information. Again, so what, dude? Mind your own business. Like, I'm a grown adult. If there's something on Twitter that's supposedly about Israel and it's from a video game, fine. I'll figure that out. I'm 50 years old. I can handle this, for heaven's sakes. I don't need you babysitting me. But you'll notice that he says public media and civil society. What is civil society? Like, give me a break. Dude, get off your pedestal, man. Do you look, what's this guy's name, Josh? Thierry. If you ever wonder why everyone hates you, this is why. Because you sound like an arrogant douchebag. Just FYI, if you're watching this video. But getting back to his quote here, you'll notice that he doesn't have any evidence. He hasn't seen. He's just basing this off of reports with the public media that, by the way, is the useful idiot or idiots of the global elite themselves. And then Musk fires back. Our policy is that everything is open source and transparent, an approach that I know the EU supports. Please list the violations you allude to on X so that the public can see them. And then I believe this is, Hugh tried to teach me this word. I think this is thank you in French. Hugh always speaks French when I'm over in St. Bart's, and I hear him say this all the time. And then this Thierry knucklehead fires back. You're well aware of your users' authorities' reports on fake content. So it's a report, for heaven's sakes. This is just like the Russell Brand thing. It's a report. So, okay, show me the evidence. Let's take this to court. Let's find out if these allegations are accurate. But until we do, they're allegations. You can't pretend that any report that you get. Hey, look, I've got several reports. I've made several reports saying that Thierry is an arrogant douchebag. So why should we not acknowledge that? Why is the EU, why is the mainstream media not acknowledging that? Why is the mainstream media not acknowledging the reports that I've done and several others showing how the global elite are part of a Malthusian cult that wants to wipe out half the population of the earth? Why are we not talking about that, Thierry? If you want to talk about all these reports on social media, let's acknowledge all of the reports, including you are a psychopath. So then the bottom line is with all this verbose word salad that he responds to Elon with, he still doesn't show any pictures. He doesn't give any evidence, right? And so then Elon fires back with pretty much the exact same thing. We take our actions in the open, no backroom deals. No backroom deals. Good, because just 4 words there, but that implies a lot. What that implies, no backroom deals, I applaud Musk for having the huevos to go ahead and just call a spade here in what this tweet implies. Please post your concerns explicitly on this platform. And then, of course, from Thierry, you get nothing but crickets. So then Matt Smith on Twitter says, gotta love generic insinuations coupled with the threats of enforcement action. Exactly. Over the limit says, the EU reminds me of old Soviet Politburo. Did they move to Brussels after the USSR fell? I mean, it sounds funny, but yet not. Yet true. And sad but true. The word Soviet means committee in Russia. So the USSR was a committee of committees of committees, which is the EU. And I think that's Elon Musk's point. Then Glenn Greenwald, who's fantastic, chimes in. The EU hired an Omidyar, I'm not sure what that is, funded firm called Reset that claims to be the disinformation expert. Oh my gosh. Look, anyone who claims to be a disinformation expert, you can bet your bottom dollar that it's the opposite of that. A disinformation expert, if they're claiming that title, I can assure you, is an expert of one thing and one thing only. That would be propaganda. It issued a study accusing big tech platforms, especially Twitter. And notice they never accused Twitter prior to Elon Musk taking over, right? As though there was as though there were no fake photos on Twitter prior to Elon Musk. No, what happened? The only thing that changed is they controlled Twitter, and now they don't. The EU may choose to proceed with fines, as outright ban could serve as a public relations debacle. Nevertheless, fines may be just as effective, if not more so, in bringing the platform down. Well, I'll tell you who we need to bring down, and it's not Twitter. It's Thierry and all of his Malthusian, Marxist, eugenicist cult buddies. Obviously, I'm not saying, I would never call for violent action. That's not what I'm saying, obviously. I'm saying pushing back through our actions, through our words, and through voting, and making sure that these people realize that this is not okay. In a civilized society, a free society, there's going to be free speech. And with that free speech, you're going to have a downside to that. You're going to have fake photos. You're going to have misinformation. You're going to have disinformation. But that's why we are adults, for heaven's sakes. That's pretty much one of the definitions. What defines you being an adult is that you can decipher between what is right or wrong. You have the authority to make decisions for yourself, and you don't need a babysitter. So my point is, this is what we need to strive for. This is what we need to communicate to these central planners and authoritarians, that we should be able to make the decisions for ourselves. Just stick to your own business, mind your own business, get out of the way, and just allow us to see all the information, the bad, the good, the ugly, and come to our own decisions. This is what freedom, liberty, and free market capitalism, and this channel, by the way, is all about. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. As always, make sure you're standing up for those three things that I just said. And I'd like to remind you that today at 2 p.m. Eastern time, we're going to be having a deep dive with my good friends Lynn Alden, Chris McIntosh, figuring out how they're setting up their own portfolios to really navigate this insane world that we're living in right now. And I know Chris, we'll talk about it today, but I know one of his main strategies with his portfolio and with the assets that he manages in his hedge fund is to really go long political stupidity, or really look at what the global elite is pushing and say, listen, how can I take a position? How can I go long that benefits from the global elite trying to achieve their objectives? So you're not going to want to miss that. It also includes my good friend Lynn Alden. That's going to be today on this channel, live, 2 p.m. Eastern time. We'll see you there.